Okay, so Rabbi, I'm going to hand over to you. And first of all, I would like to thank you so very much for being a guest on Drops of Inspiration.
My pleasure.
And I'm going to hand over right to you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. But first, I have to thank some old friends of mine, Shirley Rendell and Chazanaya Rendell. I understand the reason I'm actually on the air today is because of Shirley. So, hi, Shirley. Special regards to Revarie. It's actually a schus to be part of this. Hearing the amazing lineup of different speakers you've had, some of them friends and colleagues of mine, and some of them who continually speak all the time. I'll tell you a little about me, and then I'll try to see where this is going to go in terms of the holy work I'm involved in. I'm not, by the way, I'm not here to advise, tell you what I think we should be doing with all that's been going on in the last 9, 10 months, because me, I mean, if anything, I've heard this kind of introduction used lately, and my mind is a dedication for me personally to somebody I was very close with who just was nifta. That's Fabian Schoenfeld, who is the Moridiasa of the Young Israel of Kew Garden Hills for 6 decades, 5.5 to 6 decades, who was a personal friend, and in many ways responsible for my being where I am for the last 31 years, the helm of a project called Just One Life, Nefesh Achatz B'Yisrael.
Rabbi, can I just interrupt you for 1 second? The ladies are suggesting that if you could just turn your camera a little bit, because we're not getting a full facial.
Okay, so I'm not good at this. Turn my camera.
No, you're fine. You're great.
Now I'm fine?
Yes.
Okay. I have a bunch of notes on my, on the, I'm not really doing this by heart. Okay. So who's this Rabbi Marty Katz that Shirley Rendell decided you should hear? And you've had some amazing stars and people speak. And I do speak, but I don't run around in a certain way to the country and speak to many audiences, although people have told me maybe I should. I have people that have asked me to write a book, but it's a matter of finding the time. I've been involved in Jewish communal work for my entire life. I was a Rabbi in Ramaz. I was involved in Yeshiva University outreach for 10, 15 years. I was zocher to learn it by Rav Soloveitchik. I've made a couple of turns, as you'll hear, in terms of where my thinking is. I was executive vice president of Lincoln Square Synagogue in the days of Rabbi Riskin. I was a Rav for Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur for 8 years when I first got married by Rabbi Avi Weiss. Ladies, I'm the eclectic Jew. I speak to everybody. Okay, I'm the eclectic Jew. 5 children, all married. Everyone has been in Yeshiva Smear and been in Lakewood. I'm a little out of the box. To me, Achdus is you speak to everybody. You could disagree, but you speak to everybody. So 31 years ago, after being in Lincoln Square Synagogue, I decided to look into what projects would be very interesting for me for my life. You know, I'm not embarrassed to tell you, I'm 71, 31 years ago, I was 40, just made a bar mitzvah. By the way, I'll take a mazel tov. I'm in Houston, Texas. My son-in-law is the Kollel director, the Lakewood Kollel director in Houston, Texas for the last decade. The whole city is like unreal. And yesterday I was zocher to be sandik at a bris of an anikel, of a grandson. Okay, and that's why I'm in Houston. And Joyce, thank you for continually staying on top of the situation. Leave a time, because I think I would have forgotten that it's not that now it's 10 o'clock or 10:05 in Houston, and it's not just 7 hours; it's really like 8 hours. Okay, so thank you.
Pleasure.
Anyway, in simplistic form, 31 years ago, I took on a project called Just One Life from a Gemara, Talmud expression. And I'm not going to speak about this in totality. I just want you to understand, in terms of inspiration, what I deal with. From the expression in the Gemara, from the Talmud, he who saves a life in Israel, it's as if he saved a world. Kol hamakayim nefesh achas b'Yisrael, ki yu kiyem olam moed. And the organization is in Israel on King George, called Nefesh Achat b'Yisrael, NAB. Okay? A team of 4 social workers and volunteers. What do? Many of you know. Any issue of pregnancy and crisis, any issue, where did it start? It started with Oliver Sholem of Sharfman was the founding rabbi, and a lay leader, a very successful lay leader, Jack Forgash. You never know where things are going to start. A rabbi's in his 70s. He doesn't retire, and he's going to work with Jack Forgash in the beginning. They're in the King David on some lounge chairs. They read an article in the Jerusalem Post about the problem of termination. And we're not the anti-screamers, as you will hear, that there are 120,000 women expecting a baby, 90,000 give birth, 30,000 terminate, give or take statistics. And they don't just go, wow, what can we do? And a year of research at least is done. They bring in a person by the name of, I'm mentioning names because they're in Israel, Madeleine Gittleman, who some of you may know. She's now chairman of the chairlady of our board. She was executive vice president for close to 27 years. And they do a study, and we find out that many reasons why pregnancy and crisis exists is socioeconomic stress. Socioeconomic stress. Problems with money, problems with shalom bias, problems with just how you handle your situation in your home. And they decide to find a way or a formula to work with these women, to work with these expectant women. Most are married. Again, most are married. And they find a young rabbi who becomes a founding executive vice president. Me. And I was challenged because I had different opportunities, but this was just unique. So I spent time with several lay leaders and several rabbanim. And I'm going to mention names, not as dropping names, because some of you, I have a feeling if I spent a half hour with some of you, we'd all be mishpacha. We'd start to talk and we all know this one and that one. And it would go beyond the Shirley and Aryeh Rendell. So my dear friend, close friend, Oliver Shalom, Rabbi Wadden, spent time with me. My mentor in nonprofit, a person by the name of Fred Ehrman. Rabbi Riskin and I spent time. Rabbi Oldbaum in Kew Garden Hills and I spent time. And I can go on, but the icing on the cake was when I was crossing the street to go to Marv in Kew Garden Hills and the car stopped, and it was Fabian Schoenfeld, who I spent time before, and he opens up in his window and he says, Marty Katz, you're going to do it, right? You're going to take a topic that people may run away from. They don't want to admit there's a problem, and you're going to somehow do it. I nodded my head. My wife's name is Yafa, as it's on the picture here. I came home. I said, I just saw Rabbi Schoenfeld. I told her what happened. She said, so what are you going to do? I said, would you say no to Rabbi Fabian Schoenfeld? So I'm here. And we've expanded because we started with termination, but it's any pregnancy and issue crisis. And yes, I'll tell you stories which keep me going. Pregnancy and crisis means a miscarriage possibility, a special needs child, children in the house, and this, how do you handle this pregnancy, a shalom bias issue. And an office is set up with therapists where they could call up by referral. Again, it's not off the street. You are referred by a social worker, by a psychologist, by a doctor, by a Rov, by a Rebbitzin, a referral, so we know it's a legitimate case. Pardon me for saying that. If in Israel you made an announcement, if you're considering to terminate because you need money or there's some stress, here's the office, they'll be lining up outside the door. So we have to make sure the cases are true and make sense. And Baruch Hashem, I usually say I stand in front of you. Now I'm saying, Shirley, I'm sitting in front of you. We've saved over 18,500 babies. It's not a solicitation. This is to tell you what keeps me going. It's my identity, ladies. and I think there could be some men. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's my identity. It keeps me going. If I were a real Oscar, a real businessman, I'm not saying this would be the number one cause, because I believe in chinuch. And as you'll see, I'm involved in many different topics. But I need you to understand this keeps me going. It's not a job. It's a life. It's when we had 200 babies, I was challenged. And I don't, Shirley may have heard me say this 30 years ago. People looked at me and said, Marty, Katz, the topic of termination, even though that's not all we do, it's any situation, you'll never do it. People will run. They'll bang the door on you. And we are not an anti. Our method is love, empowerment, and dignity. How could we raise the bar? If a family or a woman has a problem, how can we raise the bar where we could give her extra monies and guide her to see a therapist in our office and afterwards an advocacy therapist of some municipality in Israel? We saved twins. We saved triplets. We've been involved in the Intifada. There's been blow-ups at the Kotel. There's been families that have split up. And you don't read about us, but our office is called. We suddenly become a Shalom Bayit center. A woman is expecting. She doesn't know what to do. A bus is blown up near the Kotel. Her family split up. She's in a hospital. And my head of this project, it's not really my head, the head, 20 years ago is called to the hospital and the team gets involved. I don't really live on the edge because every time I look at a bubbly baby, I feel terrific. Quadruplets. They're famous. You probably read about them. 22 years old. So 22 years ago, a Haredi woman, I could give her name, she speaks for us, Yael, she lives in Hanof. 10 kids. She was expecting quadruplets, and the doctors told her to fetal reduce. To fetal reduce. The Kadosh Baruch Hu runs the world, as I'll get into it in phase 2 of what I need to say to you. Somehow it was brought to our attention. Don't ask me how. The how is, I point upstairs. God decided, which is what we've all learned in the last 10 months. He makes the call, not us. Other doctors got involved. Our head social worker, who's executive vice president, who's an amazing personality, worldwide, nationwide, Madeline Gittleman got involved. Jack Forges, the chairman in America, got involved. One of our founding doctors, Dr. Glick, Shimon Glick from Beersheba, he got involved. He helped put this formula together. And the quadruplets are born, and they're 22 years old. And I want to roll back and say again, we do not scream at a woman who's expecting, what are you thinking about? We do not give bad dogma, hara dogma, it's love. How can we help? You make the decision. Do you want our help? In any situation, can we roll out $1,800, $1,500, $2,000, $1,000 over 12, 14 months, and then a follow-up can take over? But it's always with love. I promise you. If you met these women, you wouldn't believe it. Quadruplets, 22 years old. A month before the pandemic, Rabbi Marty and his wife, Yafa Katz, take a trip to Israel to give a bracha to these quadruplets. And one of the quadruplets, boys, is getting married right before Chag HaPesach. So I came then to give a bracha. One's in army service, one is in Kollel, one is working. So that keeps me going. What else keeps me going? And I'm sharing this because every one of us has something that keeps us going. Shari Tzedek asks me to come. As long as I'm here, they heard Rabbi Katz is here. And we have a very special relationship with Shari Tzedek. Not name dropping, Edna Zusman is one of my wife's best friends, going back to high school. We go to Shari Tzedek because every high-risk pregnancy or possible defective pregnancy, every one of these women who need therapy, the government has not been able to give them a stipend. They are sent by Shari Tzedek to my little office, but it's not so little, on King George, right next to the Mr. I or Rabbi Shalayim, and one of our therapists deals with this situation. I think many of you are familiar with movies, so I've often said, I'm God's messenger for the holy work. I say it bluntly, I'm not a holy man. If they call me a holy man because of what we try to do, I say, my mother is a Zichronah V'Racha, thank God, she's shepping us. I just want you to understand what keeps me going. What keeps me going? Sylvester Stallone is to Rocky, if you know movies, and Marty Katz is to babies. I don't have a real, what you call speech, A, B, C, this is where I'm going. I have different pages of what I need to share with you. I'm not going to give you tools of what should be done. And you'll be impressed, Joyce. I listened to some of the talks, and one of the men, I don't remember his name, at the end said, but the key is, what do you take from these inspiration points? Ashreich, Joyce. Because all of us need inspiration and need to talk about what's going on. But Ashreich, Joyce, because you have the guts to tell people, and you people get the guts. The simcha here is you, to say we need some inspiration, not inspiration. How do we live? What do we do? What's happening? It's all good. We say it's all good. It's all good. One of the intifadas, everybody went to the miklat. Our chairman of the board, Olav Shalom, if you come from Efrat, a young man who died of pancreatic cancer, was Stevie Esses. It's very hard for me to mention his name without crying. Young, chairman of the board, successful businessman. Intifada. Our clients are in the miklat. Some gave birth, some are pregnant. They don't have diapers. They don't have soap. They're with their husbands. Money's. All of a sudden, a call comes to America. Stevie Esses just took a van. He picked up Madeline Gittleman. They're going to the South. They're going to all the clients, and they're in the intifada. They're unloading supplies. So these women in the miklat who are expecting babies or who gave birth to babies will have what they need. You understand the intifada. I don't. I don't advise people what to do in an intifada. The only way I lived it is when I had children learning in Yeshivas Meir at the time, or Yeshivas Torah Moshe. I don't understand it. And it would be a chutzpah for me to suddenly start giving advice. Rough moments. But where things are going well, they're the bubbling moments. There's a year of 3 sets of triplets. There's a year of the quadruplets that we always speak to. Yet there's a year of a simcha and talpiot. And the floor collapses. Lo aleinu, some people die. And there was a woman in this hall. She was expecting a baby. And she was thinking of terminating. She didn't know what to do. She needed a spleen operation. There's so many different things she needed. She didn't know if to use, pardon the simple expression, coming or going. Baruch Hashem, the baby's probably 15 years old by now. It's not a baby. So they gave me a picture of me holding this baby. You always get emotional, even when it's real crying if you see me crying. I'm not such an actor. And I used to keep the picture in my pocket. we had this dinner once at one of the hotels in Israel. Rav Nassan Al-Kun, Olav Hashem, for Torah V'das came because Rav Pam, Olav Hashem, was our rabbinic advisor. And for us, it's a loss. Rav David Feinstein, Olav Hashem, was our rabbinic advisor for 20 years. And I'll get to both of those personalities later. But Rav Pam, who was so close, he was very close with us, he was there. And I used to have this picture in my pocket that I would show people. Not just for fundraising. I want you to understand, not really just for fundraising. I'm a fee-based individual. This is not running around. It's my life. It's been my life. And I was challenged with it many times. So there are some women, some men. Chazan Mendel would know this. There was a time there was a real meltdown in business. And people were walking around, oi, my portfolio, oi, my stocks, oh. And one person looks at me and says, Rabbi, again, I don't remember the years. I didn't have time to find when this was 15 years ago, 20 years ago. He says, oi, Rabbi, it's just so rough. My portfolio's down, the stocks are down, the real estate's down. Could I just have a bracha from you? So I gave him a bracha. But you look okay. You see, you're lucky. You don't really have one of these giant portfolios. They pull out a picture, the case of Talpiot, by holding the baby. The woman who had to have a spleen operation and other operations and is functioning and doing well. But there it is, me, Marty Katz, holding the baby. And I look at him and I say, this is my portfolio. This is my portfolio. I wish my portfolio would be cut down and I'd be put out of business. How do you like that? I wish I would be out of business, but I'm not. You see, during World War II, when Hitler's time in Maximo, 1 million to 1.2 million babies died. They died, they were killed. From World War II till now, the problem of possibly what's called termination, and again, that's not all we do. Over 1 million babies with the matrix could have been born. There's an analog to one to the other. That's my portfolio. That keeps me going. Many of you may know, but Shirley certainly knows, I have a very close relationship with Rabbi Yisachar Friend. Rabbi Yisachar Friend has been speaking for me for over 30 years in Yeshiva of Young Israel Flatbush, and then we took Yeshiva Flatbush, and we had people from all over. 9/11, we had 2,500. I'm sure Shirley and Aryeh were there. 9/12, we had another 2,500 from the rafters. And I often used to say about Yisachar Friend, and I still say it. And I go back, I'm only sorry I didn't know the gentleman's name. What I do know is he had gray hair like me at the end. Okay. He's one of the people that I could write a book of people who change parts of their lives as a result of what he has said over the years. I watched a businessman in his early 60s worth tens of millions of dollars do a chasana that he had to do because of business reasons that was over the top. And after he heard Rabbi Fran cheer under the umbrella of Just One Life, shipped $1 million to a Hachnosas Kala agency in Israel so that the day his daughter gets married, that same day $1 million would be distributed all over the country. That's what this gentleman meant by what do you do? And it's so hard at our age. It's so hard. Okay.
Rabbi, could you just turn your camera slightly down? We're not getting a full facial view.
Okay, I'm not a maven. What does it mean by turn the camera slightly down?
You have a camera at the top of your, do you have a camera there?
No.
Okay, maybe
If I move like this, my face will be okay?
Yeah, no, close the lid down a little bit. Have you got a laptop? Yeah, that's it. Lovely, Rabbi. Well done. That's enough.
I'm sorry. Are you hearing me
Oh,
though? Do
yeah,
you hear me?
much better. Thank you very much.
Do you hear me?
I hear you very well, and we see you very well. Yeah.
Okay.
ladies, please mute yourselves. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Rabbi, please unmute. Rabbi, please unmute. Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Perfect. And we can see you perfectly. Thank you so much.
Okay. I apologize.
I know.
I told you about twins, triplets, quadruplets. I want you to let you know we handle single mothers. I handle a single mother with pride. I'm not talking about a 14 or 15-year-old. I'm not talking about the Sahel situations, although we've handled them in different ways. I've handled cases when they've been 25 and above, and these women want their babies. And I give a direct quote from Rav Tam. My Hebrew name is Menachem. Reb Menachem, it's Hatzolas Nefashos. Do not let anybody be judge and jury. And I'm going to wind up about just one life and move into the next phase in a minute or two. Do not, it's in my mind, do not let anybody be judge and jury. So early on, when we started this project, we're all older. I could say this, our cases are mostly marrieds, but we had a couple that lived with each other. And she got pregnant. This is way back. She got pregnant. And she was thinking of terminating. They found their office, probably on referrals, which is usually the way. They were thinking of terminating not because they wanted to terminate, because their parents wanted them to terminate. From both stadim, from both sides. Ladies and some gentlemen, we funded this couple. We married this couple while she was expecting. We helped after this baby was born. I could tell you, under the chuppah, when you have a woman expecting, and you're not judge and jury, they look at this kippah much different than you can just imagine. If you just are not judgmental, if we would try just to appreciate every Jew and humanity in total. And I'm not giving Musa to you, I'm giving it to me. I try to give it to my kids. I hope they see it. As a result of this cause, I've seen more than I can even give out. And pardon me, I'm the little group. I'm a boutique shop. I'm very close to a person by the name of Marty. I'm not name dropping, I'm naming people because you may know them. Marty always says you're a boutique shop that does a lot. I'm not embarrassed to say this because they're unbelievable. You have giants that have been on the show. I'm not in the giant field. I hope results of a giant field, Klape HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I understand Eli Beer and United Hatzalah because I've been there. I understand a pizza shop that was blown up because Katz has to make a call quickly. Any of our clients there? Any of our clients hit? I understand all in Yanim about Shalom Bayis because somebody could be in a hospital, Shara Tzedek, or in Netanya, you name it, and a woman is giving birth, and the husband says, that's it, this is not for me, I'm out. What's going on? But this may be some rough moments that are turned into happiness. Because when I visit my office or I go to the houses, and the director now is an amazing lady, Chaya Katzin, with a team of different social workers with different specialties, drama therapy, animal therapy, psychoanalytic therapy, ABA, whatever, that's all kinds of therapy. When I visit that office and meet with them, or they take me to meet clients, they take me to meet people, no matter what the situation is, there's a happiness. When Madeline Gittleman once took me to a home where there was what's called reflux problem with the baby, and there was a problem of money with the money we gave, and I put my hand in and pulled out 100 shekel and said, get on more of his special medicine. I felt like the Rosh Hashiva of Panovich. And that case was unique because she had a husband that had 3 jobs. You see, it's not just giving out money. It's empowerment. It's dignity. How do we help them get on their feet? This person had 3 jobs. And we spent $200-300 for job number 4 to train him to be, what's he going to be? He picked up the garbage in 4 or 5 parks from 4 to 6 o'clock, and he felt like Melech Malchei HaMochim, a king, because now he had his dignity. And I take pride in stating that. We invested some money, which if we can, we will, so that there could be dignity in the home. The office has this huge room, which obviously is not used as much as it used to be in the last 9-10 months. It's a conference room for parents to come twice a month to hear about, there's a follow-up here, parenting workshops, financial management. You have no money and you're getting a class on financial management. Relationships, coping with life, feeling good about yourself, you name it. It's mental health, which I have obviously a spin on because of what I do. Marty Katz is not just the executive vice president of Just One Life for 31 years. I also do different kinds of consulting. And I'm just mentioning things which keep me going. This is not a commercial. This is to understand you have identities. This is my portfolio. And some of them are the roughest portfolio. I'm very involved in infertility. I guess the shidduch works here. Yes, you've heard of the many projects. My project is Tahareinu Yitzchak Melber, who's from the Tzadikim Ha'olam, which deals with infertility and what you say in Yiddish, Weibish Inyanim, Nida cycles, Taras Mishpacha. I've seen much. You should forgive me. I've seen this man develop formulas with doctors and pharmacies and Rabbanim couldn't do, where, pardon me, young couples, there's a Taras HaMishpacha problem that a woman can have for months, for years, and Chazdei Hashem, there are babies. That's an involvement of mine. There's a project called SOVA. There are many of these kinds of projects, which deals with lo aleinu, rape, incest, all sorts of shalom bayis and yanim. And I'm going to get to what the pandemic has in many ways brought out, the positive, the good, the this. The tzedakah called $1 a day. Jonathan Donard, $1 a day, Google it. It's an unbelievable tzedakah. You give $1 a day, you have your credit card, and he raises, and Just One Life has been recipients, he raises millions of dollars. You got a Herschel Schechter was on, Moshe Tubialev, different Rabbanim should have a full Shleimer of Greenberg, Pesach Krohn, the rabbinic board. $1 a day, millions of dollars are given out to chesed-focused tzedakahs. So no one can have, God forbid, an argument with yeshiva. What this chesed already, we're able to do achdus. I'm involved in an outreach project called Emet for the Bukharians, very heavily involved. I did a lot of work with Shar Yosef way back, Torah Masorah. Everybody has a marriage counselor. So I have a relationship, of course, with Houston to a woman by the name of Chani Eisenstein, who has developed all sorts of different ways of shalom bayis. This keeps me going. What I actually did as a result of what keeps me going, and I'm lifting up a piece of paper, thought of Yisachar friend. You may remember this, Shirley, but in one of the shiurim, he said, do an ethical will, or better yet, besides an ethical will, take a piece of paper, no matter how old you are, and write down what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, what you want to change, what keeps you going. What are role models? So if he did that 15 years ago or 20 years ago, I was about 50, 55. So I kept going on with the list. And I'm going to share it with you because, again, you're going to hear great speeches, great inspiration. I beg you, forget about Katz. I beg you, take one or two of those points, say, how do I implement it? Let me tell you a little secret about the guy you're speaking, hearing from. The Rav is hearing from. Joyce would be upset that I would say the guy. So there's a Tulsa's Yontif that has a little card. I don't want to get up and go get it. I'm in Houston. It's right next to my phone bag. About watching and not talking during davening. Down Kew Garden Hills, I asked people to sign up. I didn't want to sign up because I didn't trust myself, and I'm not a big talker during davening. So I've worked on it for the last 9 months. Baruch Hashem, I say the bracha, which there's a Shem Hashem, I say it's a Tulsa's Yom Tov. I come to davening, and my davening is more meaningful, I'm quiet. So much so, there was somebody there from Lakewood who was involved with outreach we hadn't seen in 25 years. He came in Houston when I was here. He came, he was there for Mincha, and before I could turn around, he left. And I didn't want to interrupt the middle of davening to go run over and say hello to him. And I worked on it. I'm using myself. I worked on it. Or in Hebrew, dibarti el atzmi. I spoke to myself. I am not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you what I did, and some works, some doesn't. I spent Friday afternoon calling Yisomim, Almanas, Almond, sick people. I'm not a Rav of a shul. But I'm close to co-chairman Steve Adelsberg, who should have a refuah shlema, who is doing okay, but needs a refuah shlema, but he's doing great in many ways. He has multiple myeloma, and every Friday afternoon he makes 50 phone calls. Doesn't matter that he's very successful and he could do it. The question is doing it. And it's in my mind, because I don't call 50 people, but I try to call. I'm close with Shmuel Kamenetsky, and he makes these calls. We hear different stories of different Gedolim that have an influence on us. When my daughter needed a shidduch, in my neighborhood, there was an evening for Lev Achim, and I was close with him, and I wanted to bring her daughter actually here, and it's not the who I brought him for a bracha. It's not who she wound up marrying. I brought him for. I was going to bring her. I called him. I said, "Rosh Yeshiva, can I bring my daughter, my tochter Yiddish? Can I bring my daughter to you for a bracha? You're in the neighborhood." He said, "Sure, absolutely. You know what? After it's over, come by 10:30. I'd love to meet her. Her name's Yocheved." Okay. A day before, he calls me. He says, "Rav Menachem, am I happy I got you? Don't bring her at 10. Everybody will see her come in. Bring her at 6, 2 hours before it begins, so I could give her a bracha and the world doesn't have to know and she shouldn't feel uncomfortable." It's not what he did that just taught me that component. It taught me to try to be more sensitive. Don't listen to what people will tell you if they know me, that I have sensitivity, I care. I got it, but we all need improvement. We all need improvement. It taught me something amazing. Or at the Torah Sorah convention, when my oldest boy, a Rebbe, walked over to him and says, "I'm Rabbi Katz's son." And he says, "Not only that, Yocheved's brother." It taught me, I guess, a spin of what I do. Raising the bar of people. Returning phone calls. Not being explosive. and I'm not an explosive person, but I try to tell young couples, when your child spills the milk, instead of being upset, start singing, "Wow, you spilled the milk, it's unbelievable." So somebody looks at me and says, "That's amazing that you know to do this." I said, "It's not amazing. I wish I knew to do it 45 years ago when my kids spilled the milk." Okay? Now I'm telling you to do not what I did. There's a Berditchev that is told over in Parshas Rashis, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu calls out to Adam, "Ayeka, where are you?" Ayeka calls that out a few times in Rashis. What does the Berditchev say? "Ayeka, where are you?" That's the question each man, each person has in his mind, in his generation, to him. Where are you? What are you doing? The littlest thing could be the greatest thing. I'm not minimizing when I say it's a boutique operation. It could be the greatest thing. 18,500 babies. I'm Kadosh Baruch Hu's Shaliach Baruch Hashem. I'm not too much in the papers. Ayeka, where are you? Yes, hanging around and knowing of Shmuel helped me a lot. It was a dinner, and the honoree said, "Listen, don't give me the mazel tov. Call my mother. She's in the hospital, 215-682, blah, blah, blah. It's in Philadelphia." Shmuel, all right, it was actually a Kibbutz day school dinner when Shmuel's there. He's a Rosh Hashiva in Philadelphia. Call this number if you have a chance. Tell her son got on it, be mazel, etc., etc. One person made the phone call, Shmuel Kamenetsky. It's not a highlight of Shmuel, it's a highlight of, if you're not sure to do it. I have a weekly chavrusa for 10 minutes on the phone with a Dr. Richard Cohen. It's different kind of partners in Torah. Dr. Richard Cohen I'm 71, he's 73. He's my internist for the last 15, 20 years. He's the old kind of conservative Jew, the Jew he grew up. Believe it or not, he wasn't into scholarship of Judaism. What turned him on? Dennis Prager, an old friend of mine. I told you I was eclectic. I talked to everybody. Dennis Prager. Dennis Prager turned him on. And during the pandemic, it's the pandemic when this started. We started Sefer Bamidbar. I said, "Richie, let's do the parsha every week Friday. I'll call you on your cell for 5-10 minutes." I think of the Rav Moshe story when somebody did an Amud. It was like a siyum. We finished Sefer Bamidbar. It's like a coffee in a Danish. It's not a Zoom. It's a phone call. We finished Dvarim. We finished. All right. Here we go. We just started Shmos. He looks forward, Rabbi, when it's over, to take us out to a kosher restaurant. Him and his wife, Libby, of her parents are Holocaust survivors. It keeps me going. It's an unaffiliated Jew. I was gutsy. I'm not going to lie to you. I was afraid to do this. They're little things. They're little things. And he definitely wasn't into Trump. He was into Israel. And I'm not talking about what took place in the Capitol last week. Just in general, this president. But we've developed an amazing relationship. We all have different role models. Shmuel, Rav Pam. Pam put tefillin on my kids. I'm very close. I'm close to Herschel Schechter from the Tzadikim. Mom's from the Tzadikim. We used to go, I mentioned this if anybody's in the audience there, Tannersville. The kids grew up in Tannersville near Hunter, New York. We were neighbors with Rav Schechter. I'm eclectic. I told you, my older boy, my kids went to Shara Torah to start in high school. My older boy, who was in Lakewood, and Rav Schechter used to sit hours on Rav Schechter's porch as they learned. And Rav Schechter, again, this is what to learn from Rav Schechter. He would always say to me, "Rav Marty, my chavrus is waiting for me." My chavrusa. You got this? My chavrusa. Shechli would say, Amar Rav Huna in Gemara Brachas, you turn around, you finish the whole Amud B'Yalpeh. But that's another. That's another. There are different midrashim why Moshe Rabbeinu was actually chosen, or the test that he got. And if you go back to this week's parsha, when he was a roat tzon, he was a shepherd. He was a shepherd. That's where he started. In Houston, one of the pillars is a person by the name of Andy Sirota. I always like to mention where I heard or read. And he wrote a piece where he's based on Midrashim. Why was Moshe as a roat tzon, a shepherd picked? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu looked at the little things. And he says, that's the test. How he handled the sheep, how he handled people, how he did what he had to do. The little item tells you who the giant is. Rivka came and she fed the animals and she ran. The little things. Small things become the big things. We have to work. I could talk about I mentioned different Rabbanim. Roselia Epstein, Olav Shalom in Kew Gardens was clarity is a Rav who loved all Jews. By the way, I beg of everybody, even those that may make statements that bother you, and I'm talking to myself, we Jews have to love all Jews. And by the way, he didn't ask me to give a commercial, but I'll give it. If there's one thing United Hatzalah demonstrates, it doesn't matter which Jew is in need of help. Just like Chesed 24/7, a Satma Bikacholim, suddenly we galvanize and we become. I've made a whole bunch of tikkunim at my age, which become impressive to my children at 71 in the last 9-10 months. I'm not talking as much. I'll tell you a secret, but don't tell too many people. I never came on time to shul. I always came in the middle of Pesukei December. I'm telling it to you. I didn't talk so much. I came in the middle of Pesukei December. I'm getting there 5 minutes early. The last time I got there 5 minutes early, Zichrono L'Bracha, my father died. I was Zoich, he was 97, 17 years ago. Katz, so I was always there early. It doesn't take too much time. And there's trepidation. Can I still do it? By the way, I will give you all a bracha at the end because I was Sandik yesterday. And I had Kavana yesterday that the Sandik gives brachas bo bayom, and I moved it over to who I need to give brachas to. Since I'm talking to a special audience of people who want to learn and improve, I'm going to give in a collective way a bracha, seriously. But I got to tell you, I was a Sandik with a mask on. A new world. A Sandik with a mask on. And the young kids, a year old, this is the norm right now. You walk around with a mask. I'm not sure where, depending on where you are, with shuls. I davened outside for a while. 4 to 6. And there should only be brachas with everything going on with lockdowns, etc. in Israel. Rabbi Fran said something right before Yom Kippur when he couldn't speak for me in the Young Israel. So surely, what did I do? I came up with this idea and I called him, Rav Yisachar, you're not going to be able to speak in Chicago. You're not going to be able to speak in California. What are we doing in Baltimore? What are we doing? This is not just about money, which is stucker money that just when life could make or other stuckers. This is, I tell you, min aleid shali. When he speaks, and people who know me, I always give out his CDs because it's for Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael. So the 71-year-old should have good health. If you think I'm a genius in social media, I'm not bad for my age. I said, let's stream it. And we set up a stream, and he was in Chicago, and he was in Woodmere, and he was in California, and he was in Florida, and he was in Teaneck, and he was in Queens, and of course in Brooklyn, etc., etc. And then we sent the link out, and 6,000 to 7,000 people were Nana this year and needed it. And let me tell you, it reminded me of 9/11 and 9/12, the year of the terrorist attack on Twin Towers, and a year later, when he gave one of the most brilliant shiurim on tefillah and how you approach tefillah. So now I want to tell you another story when we talk about tefillah and Rabbi Fran and me and you. At 9/12, a year later, he beseeched, he begged simplicity, without sukkim, without sources, just straight. He beseeched and begged everybody, please take an English sitter. Look at some of what you're saying. Understand what you're saying. Please, we have to storm the gates and understand. Best friend of Aya Rendell the next day in shul, Franklin Snittow, takes an art scroll English. He's surrounded by a couple of Polish Jews, as you'd say, Holocaust survivors. And I see the smile on Shirley, she remembers the story. Holocaust survivors. They're going to pick up an English sitter? What are you doing, Mr. Snittow? A very special Yid. What are you doing? I'm trying to give some proofs and help, not just from the stars, from people you may not know. And this is a special Yid. He says, I heard a share, like I always hear, and I decided to use the English sitter. No, not bad. In Yiddish, not bad. The next thing you know, you have a couple people, Holocaust survivors, they got an English sitter, they're also going to look and see what they can learn. You don't know by doing, instead of being dogmatic and saying to do what you could accomplish. I spoke to you about not talking in shul. I have the card in front of me. I use it as a bookmark. One person, a Sfaradi in shul, 6-8 inches behind me, says to me, Rabbi, what's this card I see you using? He looks at it. He says, can I have it? 3 days later, he says, I'm on 3 days. I'm doing okay. So it's like a schluss. He took the card, but I didn't get the schluss because my closest friend in life is Rabbi Ephraim Buchwald. We've been roommates. We got smicha together. We've traveled the world together for Kiruv in our younger years, and he was the one who spoke to me about this. So I called him. I said, "You get the schluss." We tell over stories to mobilize us. The word is hedjot. I'm a hedjot. I'm not a gaon. So I'm telling over stories as a hedjot to somehow move you to life I lived. I haven't been so humorous, although I'm a funny guy, but not this talk, to somehow inspire and get us to move in a direction. But I want to tell you a story which is a very special story. And the stars here are not stars you even know. Over 20 years ago, there's a person by the name I just spoke to him a few weeks ago, Josh Wisotsky. Wasn't married, maybe 22 years ago, wasn't married. Has a couple kids, I think, and lives in Bergenfield. He was a regular at Rabbi Fran. And always, we all remember, before CDs, we had tapes. So forget about MP3s and whatever links that we all send out. And he always used to come. We had tapes, but he would come to the house. Okay, he'd come even during the summer. And he always spoke about what Rabbi Fran did for him. One year, I decided I was going to go for Kaporis to Forest Hills, because not only, I guess this is not the biggie for you, not only were there chickens, and I don't always do chicken, seriously, but they were also doing shchita, and there's a mitzvah, what's called kisei adam. The blood falls down on the ground and it's covered. Big mitzvah. Have a chance to do the mitzvah. My boys are in yeshiva. One's in Lakewood, the other's in Namir. Just me and the girls for now. What possessed me to take Chevi, which is the Houstonian, to come with me or to see Kisri Adam. I don't know. He knows, but I don't know. He wanted to do Kabbalah. I go, and this is a few days after the Rabbi Fran class, and Josh Wasatsky wasn't at the shul. And he sees me, and he says, Rabbi, I didn't feel well. I said, let's do the kaparis. I'm doing mine. My daughter's doing hers. You do yours. You come to the car. Guess what? I used to drive around after the shir, always giving out the tapes. It wasn't only about donating. It was just improve. You're going. I used to feel, Shirley can appreciate this. You got to go into Yom Kippur hearing Rabbi Fran. That's the way I felt. It wasn't the same. Shabbos morning, I hear a Hashkama. I go to Hashkama for Shachar, then I hear Rav Obam for his Chumash shir. If I don't hear Rav Obam, it's just not the same for me. I wasn't. So after he hears this shir, which was unbelievable, it may have been the shir on Tefillah, I don't even know. He comes to my house and he says, listen, he called me Rebbe. Rebbe, where do you daven Marav? Because I used to daven always Shachos with a minion, he would tell me. But Mincha Marav, Mincha I daven by myself. Marav, I even skipped. I told him, Orach Chaim with Daniel Landa. Okay, if you know Queens. He said, okay, I'm davening Shachos and Mincha, but Tzibur I won't. But if you're davening at the 10:20, I'm coming because I need to be near my Rebbe. Okay, all right. He said, after what you... So he, for weeks and weeks and weeks, he's coming. I'm davening Marav there. He's davening Marav there. He's coming. All of a sudden, he's not there one night. He's not there the second night. He's not there the third night. He's not there the fourth night. I get nervous. I call him. There's no, the cell phones weren't. You had them, but it wasn't. It wasn't like drinking coffee like it is today. No answer. After 3, 4, 5 days, he calls me. He says, Rebbe, Josh. I says, are you okay? He said, yeah. I need to call you. I apologize I didn't call you. You see, there was one night I was at Marav and you weren't. And after Marav, I went to the back. For some reason, I was looking at the base medrash and I looked on the wall and there were all these signs and I was reading and there was a sign that said platelets and blood type needed for a certain child. A boy needed the following, and I said, I think I have this kind of blood type, and maybe the platelets, maybe I can help him. Rebbe, you're not going to believe this. I had it. I saved the boy's life practically. Rebbe, from a Rabbi Fran tape to you doing kaparas to a tape coming to your house, I decided I'm following you tomorrow. What do you have to say? Do you feel good? I said, you want to know what I have to say? I feel beyond good. But after we're done, I got to call Rabbi Fran. It's like a Chad Gadya. You don't know where you wind up and where you are. A value of a person. I told you, it wasn't a name brand, the person. I don't know who he saved. And he's a Shomer Shabbos, married, kids. I know his father. And a few weeks ago, I get a call. Art Scroll sends out every week a parsha sheet. I get a call. I get 5 calls, including a WhatsApp from my son, from one or two sons. Not all of them have WhatsApp. You get it. I know you all understand. Okay. They should all live and be well. And I get a call. Rabbi, you're a celebrity. I'm not a celebrity, but Artsko, you're there. Rabbi Fran, the story from yesterday. And he quoted what happened with you and him. You don't know where anything goes. I quote Rabbi Fran because I'm close to all of them. I have a shaykhs with Crown, with Y.Y. Jacobson. I have many of them. But Rabbi Fran always talks about the fact you don't know what the Tehillim is. The Tehillim, we go for somebody, HaKadosh Baruch Hu may decide to use it in some way. We're not in charge. We're just not in charge. There are different reactions or ways we've dealt with the pandemic. I've tried to use it to grow, to do tshuva. I'm not embarrassed to tell you. I haven't kissed a grandchild in over 9 months. I haven't kissed a child in over 9 months. I'm here, mask, sometimes not mask, distance. And listen to me, ladies and gentlemen, I had it. And my wife had it. And if you know Kew Garden Hills, there was a Rav by the name of Rav Mattis Bloom, 61 years old, who died from it. He was my mechutin. And 3 days later, his father, 92, died. So in 10 days, my son had he's the oldest of the first set of children are girls. He had to worry about burying his father-in-law and his grandfather-in-law. And this mechutin that died, his first wife died 10 years ago from the machla. He remarried. Some of these kids are married. And this is a woman now who, on second marriage, her first husband died. All of a sudden, the life is, but we're not in charge. Because 2 weeks ago, my mechutin who died, his son, who was also sick, by the way, he got married. It was a Kiddush Hashem. And my children, my son and daughter-in-law, feared her brother to the chuppah. With every component of sadness, there's a component of it's all good. He's in charge. He's in charge. You don't have to be as crazy as me. I didn't even go through every one of my lists. I didn't sit here and compose a whole speech with a start, a beginning, and end, which I've done. I'm sharing you the guts of this person. This is the guts of who I am. I try. I have pain on other people. I see the pain they have. I called yesterday and gave brachas right and left. I gave brachas to people who need, daughters need shidduchim and sons need shidduchim, and people who were sick. And you saw them, I handpicked certain kinds of people. And I wanted to get off the phone fast. I'm not embarrassed to tell you because I didn't want anybody to tell me, you're a special person. How do you think of this? My children would tell you, you have to know something about Abba. The more you tell them you're not going to succeed, you can't do it, the more he's going to tell you you can do it. You see, when I started Just My Life, they told me I was nuts. They told me I was crazy. And I went to Rav Pam. And Rav Pam said, don't listen to everybody. And he sent me to an Askin. This Askin, his name I don't want to mention, who gave me $25,000, $30,000, $35,000. And he looked at me, he says, you know why I'm giving you, Marty, Katz, this money? And I was with Jack Forges, who he should only be, was a Zangazin, a dreamer, a successful person, a schus for the 18,500+ babies. He said, you know why I'm giving you this money? It was this amazing project that's just out of whack. People have pregnancy issues and birth issues, and we're giving them money and working it out. And I'm betting on you. I am betting on you. Because in the beginning, every single kind of person is going to look at you and say, this is where your time is. I'm quoting you verbatim 31 years ago in November. Solomon Sharfman, Oliver Shom, taught me something. He was in his 70s when he sat with Jack Forges in his 70s. He was in his 70s when he did so many other things. He dealt with Gayrish, Russian Jews, Perushim. He was unique because he could speak to everybody, knew everything. You have to always do it, live by it, see it. I'm going to close with two things. Joyce, do I have a few more minutes?
Sure, Rabbi, sure.
And I know this is a little different of a talk than you've probably had, but I'm going to close with two things. I want you just for a minute to forget about Washington, and I know it took place, but that is a different reason why I'm telling you what I'm about. One of my, or not one of my, I believe one of the most chashuv parshos, they're all chashuv, important parshos that has a very important message to us, is Balak. And I want you to understand why. Balak hated the Jewish people. Bilam was no Navi guy that liked the Jewish people. In Yiddish, the word is oisvos. They weren't the role models. And Balak calls Bilam in, and the expression is, Vayiftach Hashem es piaton. Kadosh Baruch Hu allows the donkey to speak. And when he's ready to curse the Jews, comes Matovu Alecha. Kadosh Baruch Hu controls it and switches it around. All I could tell you is, I'm not here to talk about, again, I'm going pre-Washington, and I'm not being political in a different way. Jerusalem was recognized. All different things for the Jews were done in Israel for the last 4 years. And we don't even understand it. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu picks who he wants to be that conduit that sometimes has to deliver. And our feeling and our Hakaras Hatov is to say, thank God for the delivery. Irrespective if we understand, we don't, there's a delivery, there's an end. We all look for normalcy, we all look for an end, we all wait for an end. We all look for brachas, we all reach out. We all try changes. We all come for inspiration. So I beg of you, take some of the inspiration you've heard, see how you can use it. My bracha to all of you, a bracha of a hedjot. I could have smicha, it doesn't matter. I can tell you where I learned, etc. I'm a hedjot. I'm not the Tosas Yontav, I'm not the Gedolim I mentioned. But as Sandik, I give you a bracha of gesund, of health, of nachas. Yeshuas Hashem Keref Ayin. Gesund from the kinder, from the children. Shiduchim, health, Torah, Avas Hashem, Kibbut Ein, anything that goes with it, and Achdus Klal Yisrael.
Amen.
And love that one Jew should have for the next Jew, and not to be judgmental. Because by not being judgmental, I promise you, the accomplishments could tower. I've been here where people have looked at me for anything I've been involved and said, you'll never do it. Kadosh Baruch Hu, thank God, gave me koach. You should have koach. And just by being here, you have koach. Because it's gutsy to say, what can I hear? What can I hear that could somehow move me and help me make change? Ashreichem, and have a Shavuot Tov, a good week. And thank you, Shirley and
It was
Rabbi.
really very inspiring. And
Thank you so much.
just a second, I'm going to open it up to anybody if they have any questions. One by one, please ask now.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. You should have more koyach to continue.
Beautiful.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amazing work that you do. A fantastic work that you do.
It was exceptional to hear you. Thank you. It's from England. Exceptional.
Thank you. Shirley?
No, I just wanted to say thank you, and my husband sends a regards. He's right here, and if you see him.
I want to let you know, ladies, I behaved myself. I did not speak about Aryeh Rendell,
No.
and I won't. But there's a different kind of chizuk. Anytime we reached a certain level of happiness, he just gave me a certain kind of chizuk. That's all I'm going to say. When we hit baby number 1,000, number 5,000, Aryeh Rendell said, Ashrecha. I'm not saying any more, Shirley, because he'll kill me. Okay? I just want to tell you. People like that kept me going. You have to understand. people like the Rendells and the Snithows. I just spoke to Roz last night. Okay, they keep it going. All right, so
Baruch Hashem.
one more quick story, Joyce. Joyce, one more quick story.
Go ahead, Rabbi. Thank you.
Rav Pam's wife. So I used to go to Rav Pam's house all the time. I can even get you to chuckle. Rav Pam had a rotary phone. Anybody remember on the wall? We were like the quiet shuvu. We were debriefed about what was going on. And I once saw calls came in. He would get up. I would say to him, Rosh Yeshiva, I'm not so talented, but this talented I am. I could bring an extension phone wire and a phone, and you could be on the wall and you could be on the desk, and then you don't have to get up. This is a story about Rav Pam, but I'll get to the Rav Pam story I really want to tell you. He looks at me and he says, Rav Menachem, I could use the exercise to get up and get the phone. Don't give me an extension. Rav Pam's wife had an album with all her Eneklach, the Pam children. Suddenly there was a white paper or a plastic, the old albums, pardon me, and then you had other children, other babies, other children. Somebody's looking at and sees the line and looks, says, these are not Pam's. She says, these are my other children. These are my other babies. These are my other grandchildren. These are my Just One Life babies.
Wow.
Any
you.
questions, anything, please. You
No,
can,
but
by the way, if you feel like contacting me, if you go to Just One Life on the web, I'm there. Joyce, I give you full reshus to give out my number, any information. By the way, if you want to get involved, please, that's okay. But if you have anything you want to ask me, you can. By the way, I didn't handle one question, which is quite a sensitive issue. Adoption. Out of the 18,500 plus babies, every mother has kept their baby.
Wow.
We are okay. If we ever would have an adoption situation where a mother would want to give up the baby, believe it or not, we send them to another agency. I say this with pride so that my hands are clean. Okay, so that I don't get offers which I have of monies. And my pain. I told you I'm an infidelity. The pain I have for the topic. The pain. So they've kept them. But if they would, we don't handle it. We direct them so that I keep my authenticity, my integrity, and my ethic. I mean that. I'm not saying it because they're commercials. This is really, at the end of the day, I have to look at myself in the mirror and I hope do what's right.
Rabbi Katz, I want to say something. You said that people have described you as a holy man, but you're not a holy man. Well, first of all, I want to say that it's not for the holy man to say whether he is holy or not. It's for others to say it. But even if you say you're not a holy man, you're certainly a hero to all of these babies, to all of these mothers, and to us, whom you have shown the way that you can take something in hand, you can do something with your life, you can put your kochas into something and you can accomplish. And that's an inspiration to all of us. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Rabbi,
Absolutely.
it was truly an inspiration. Really, thank you for being a guest on Drops of Inspiration and inspiring all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
ladies, just before we go, I did mention earlier, but not everybody was here then. Next week, we are going to have Eli Beer, the founder of Hatzalah, United Hatzalah, and we will be starting at 5:30 because Eli has another engagement after us. So in order to get the full hour and a bit more in, we're going to start at 5:30, but I put that in an email.
Well, ladies, you don't have to worry because she runs an amazing program. Between now and next week, you will get 6 emails and WhatsApps and Zooms. It is impossible. The bigger problem will be after Ellie Bear speaks to go back to the old way that she'll have to remind you. By the time she's done, you'll think, "Kol hakavod." Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you again.
Mazel
My
tov.
pleasure.
Should see a lot of
My
now.
pleasure.
Thank you. Amen.
Thank you very much.
Nice. Well,
Thank
thank you for the bracha as well.
Amen. Thank you.
Very
Thank you.
special.
I'm signing off, okay?
Thank you, Rabbi. Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.